In the meantime, there are some dueling forecasts about the economic impact of President Biden's infrastructure plan and the key differences that lead some to predict it will grow the economy and others that it won't. Steve Leisman is here. He's got more on the difference between those two camps. Steve, good to see you this morning.
Yeah, Becky, head spinning on all this. Big questions. Many of them actually debated for hundreds of years are now in play when it comes to gauging the economic impact of the Biden infrastructure plan. Two detailed studies come up with divergent estimates over how the plan would impact growth. Take a look here. Moody's sees by 2030 the level of GDP 3.3% higher. Penn Wharton by 2031 says it'll be down 0.9%. Moody's sees a meaningful increase in growth, millions more jobs and higher wages, as well as higher productivity. The Penn Wharton model forecasts a decline in growth and fewer hours worked. Here's the difference is how their models treat big economic ideas like the effect of higher corporate taxes and the impact of government investment on the economy. There's the issue of the return on government investment. Zandy sees, he's at Moody's obviously, sees the government spending hitting an economy with lots of slack in it, so each dollar adds a lot more to GDP. Penn Wharton thinks we'll be closer to full capacity, so they don't see much of a multiplier to the government spending. There's a big issue of crowding out. Penn Wharton sees big effects of the government borrowing and higher corporate taxes reducing private investment. Zandy doesn't see quite as much. So what is infrastructure? That's another question. Penn Wharton counts about 1/5 of the bill as just social welfare or transfer payments, so they don't give it any return at all. That leads to even bigger questions about how do you value social goods like reducing carbon emissions, helping the elderly, or avoiding Texas-style shutdowns of the electrical grid? The models may not fully capture those benefits, of course, if you value them. Both sides do agree. Government has underinvested in the economy, and there are some investments only government can make. But there are big gaps in estimating the impact of this package of spending, and of course, importantly, Becky, how it's paid for.
I think both camps probably made some valid points about the impact of spending, but also, you know, the how you pay for that, the cost that comes along with it. Is it fair to say you just mix these two models up and round it out and that's the answer? Or are there other ways that people say you should go about doing this?
You could do worse than that, Becky. You know, it's funny. I got to ask, Kent Smetters is the CBO and Treasury official who runs the Penn Wharton model. I asked him, I said, was there a way you could design this that would end up having positive GDP? And he says, if you had a value-added tax, that was one way that he sees as more neutral to the economy. And there is this big issue. Janet Yellen writing a op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today suggesting there has not been much impact from the tax cuts of 2017. Steve Forbes the day before wrote one that said there's been a huge impact. So you can start there by saying what is the impact of figuring out the increase or the change in corporate taxes, both what happened before and what would happen in the future. So how you pay for it is a big part of what makes a negative in the Penn Wharton model, but also the value you put on these government investments.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.